Welcome, episode 5, 3-Drink Minimum Podcast. Another easy win, just like we all thought. 26-10. The Raiders are terrible. The Chargers are not. This is my drink of choice today, a lovely Tropical Punch Capri Sun provided by a 6-year-old. Very good, very nutritious, very healthy. Okay, so let's talk about the game here. Man, there was at first it was, I didn't think it was a very interesting game at all. Through about the second quarter, it was just super, just nothing. There was like nothing going on. The field goal was good. Obviously, Sturgis made a field goal, and we're going to talk about him because, he's not very good. The Raiders got another field goal. But after that, man, there was I guess everything in between there, just not much of anything going on. But from there, that's when the Chargers opened it up a little bit. They got a couple touchdowns. They got a turnover, scored off a missed field goal. So that was really good. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that just caught my eye, some of the things that I wrote down. And, somebody says there's no sound. That's great. Yeah, what the heck, man? Great. All right, Logan says he does hear me. So hopefully you guys had all that because I have no interest in repeating everything that I just said. So we're going to pretend that is all good. So some of the things that I wrote down just right away, in the first half, the third down defense was really, really good. I don't feel like the Chargers have been great with that just early on in the season, but it was good to see them get off the field. And I know that the Raiders are dealing with a bunch of injuries, and I'm sure that they are. Their fans are complaining, but newsflash, so is every other team in the NFL. How many Chargers fans did you hear complain today about missing both offensive tackles? Like, nobody said a word about that just because I feel like us as fans, we're so used to just, having injuries, playing shorthanded that we just go with the flow now. But, come on, we can throw out missing Joey Bosa every game if we wanted to, but that's just not how football works, man. Everybody's dealing with injuries. So, yeah, the Chargers were able to do it, man. Get off the field on third down. Early on in the game, it seemed like the Raiders were attacking Trevor Williams early and often, and it was working. Trevor's getting torched a little bit. They went away. They went away from him for whatever. I don't know. The Raiders really didn't seem like they had much of a plan at all. It seemed like they were just doing what they do. Usually they take shots down the field quick, like it'll be 1, 2, 3 shot down the field, or just dink and dunk. There wasn't really much of a semblance of anything they were doing today. Adrian Phillips. So Jatavis got hurt, and Adrian Phillips was playing linebacker in place of him, and they were not running at him. They were running like east and west, like towards the sideline, instead of running up the middle, running right at Adrian Phillips. Just little things like that where you would think that they would try to take advantage of the Chargers' holes, and they just weren't at all. So it's tough to say that the Chargers were that good on defense when the Raiders really didn't have much of a plan at all. I don't remember Amari Cooper doing anything, and I don't think he's, much of anything anyways, but he was shut out. Let me see what his stats were. Amari Cooper had 1 catch for 10 yards. Martavis had a long one. He beat Trevor Williams on that 47-yarder when the announcer said it was Casey Hayward, which it wasn't. I don't know, man. On offense, the Raiders they looked like the Raiders, I guess. Marshawn Lynch had 9 carries today. I can only imagine how mad they are. Just as we know that the Chargers have 3, 4 good players on offense that you can rely on. The Raiders have Marshawn Lynch, Jared Cook, sometimes Jordy Nelson, and Marshawn Lynch. And to only give him 9 carries against a team that cannot stop the run is pretty amazing. But that was not good. Something else that I thought early on, it seemed like the offense was inconsistent. The offense, they really didn't have much going at all. But they were able to. It seemed like after that Eckler score, that's when they got in a groove. And about that Eckler touchdown, first of all, again, doesn't get a touch until midway through the second quarter. I think it was 4 or 5 possessions, which is pretty silly, man. But so they got a touch. He makes that crazy run where he makes 2 people miss, takes off on everybody else. But we need to talk about Rivers. Rivers caught the ball over his head, didn't panic or anything, as like 4 guys are screaming down his throat, finds Eckler and gets rid of it. And that was all in a hurry. That was a really impressive play by Rivers. So once Eckler got that score, that's when the offense got in a groove and took off and started to look like the offense that we have seen over the course of these first 4, now 5 games. Yeah, so Logan says, 1st and goal from the 1, no Lynch. Yeah, that sounds familiar. And it seems like that's happening more and more now. I don't know, man. If I have a short yardage situation and I have 1, 2, 3 downs, and this is coming from somebody who like lives to pass the ball, I think running is just I think if you are going to have 10 plays, run the ball 1 time, throw the ball 9 times. But if you have a Marshawn Lynch, I'm going to trust that he can convert just because he's such a pain in the ass to bring down, man. He's so hard to tackle, but I don't know. He never really got going today. And maybe that is on the Chargers. Maybe it's on Gruden. Who knows, man? Missed kicks again this week. When are we going to acknowledge the real problem isn't the holding or the snapping, but rather the width of the goalpost? Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And I'm glad you said that. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to write a very long letter, probably about 2,000 words, and just seeing what needs to happen for the NFL to adjust the goalpost, because clearly Sturgis was good before when he was with the Eagles. They brought in Donnie Jones for him to continue to be good. They bring in Donnie Jones, and Sturgis once again misses a kick before the end of the half, which against a good team is going to come back to bite them. And he missed a extra point. So I don't know, man. These are layups. These are gimmies that he's missing. This has to be the last straw. There's what else can you say? It's not like today was bad weather. They played a game in freaking Los Angeles. I don't know, man. Somebody else has to be on the team though by next week, or else if they don't make a change after this, I don't think they're going to make a change at all. Jatavis, another thing so speaking of the Eckler score, the very next possession, when Melvin Gordon had that long run or that long screen pass and he trips over Feeney, that is so hilarious. I don't know how that happens. And that was actually really impressive that both Feeney and what's his name, Pouncey, were 40, 50 yards down the field running full speed. But to be tripped up by your offensive lineman and to not get in the end zone, that's pretty rough. And I know they scored, but it would have looked so much better if Rivers got that touchdown. I think Rivers is playing outstanding. And I spent like a whole year just like trolling Rivers basically. But this year, more than I can remember, in the pocket, man, he's doing these little things where he's just buying enough time, just avoiding rushers, drifting in the pocket to buy more time for the receivers, just doing a really, really good job. And they're making plays, man. They're paying it off. But he gets a lot of credit. He had another really good day today. At one point, I know he had only 5 incomplete passes. Okay, looking at it right now, finished the game 22 of 27, 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 sack. I think the sack tells you how good he is in the pocket and how good he is under pressure, because Scott, the right tackle, Bruce Irvin was giving him fits. He was beating him, but Rivers just avoiding him or getting rid of it faster, like we saw on the Eckler touchdown. Just knowing where the check down is. And I think that's a problem with a lot of younger quarterbacks, but it's good to see, man. If Rivers keeps playing like this, they do have a chance. And I know the defense, while the defense played well today, we know we have evidence over the first month that they just haven't played very well. But if Rivers plays like he has been, they have a chance to do some damage. Something else that I wrote, Jatavis. Oh, that was a good hustle on that play where he forced a fumble. So they scored a touchdown. On the very next play, they get a turnover, and the following drive, they get a touchdown. That's pretty big, man. It's pretty big stuff. Melvin Ingram was a monster today. So he had a sack. He had a play that stood out to me. He chased down Lynch from the other side of the formation. That was pretty impressive. And the interception was really, really good. But he's actually he's playing linebacker down at the goal line, and he's actually really, really good at that position, like knowing that teams are going to run. So they don't hide him or they don't put him on one side of the field. They just line him up as a linebacker and basically tell him, see ball, go get ball. And he's made plays in that area. So that's pretty creative stuff by Gus Bradley to let him basically be the middle linebacker, be the key part of the defense to get a stop. And today, on that interception, it looked like he was going to chase a receiver. So I get why Carr thought he was going to leave, because he was running with the receiver, and then he just stopped, saw the other receiver, stepped in front of the throw, and made the play. So props to Melvin Ingram. I thought he was really good today, and he's been good on 4 out of 5 games. It's tough to complain too much about that. Leading the team in tackles, had a sack, had another tackle for loss. He's playing really well. Let's look at some of the Raiders stats besides. So mentioned they shut down Amari Cooper. That's good. So coming into the game, Jared Cook had the 10th most receiving yards of not just like tight ends, but of all receivers. And he was having some very, very good games. But today they took him away, 4 catches, 20 yards. Derwin was on him most of the time. He did have that, we'll call it uncatchable, but I don't know. They're probably going to call that PI or whatever it was in the end zone. But they did a good job of taking away their best players. Now, I don't feel like they've done that to this point. Coming in the game, I felt like they had to stop interior pressure, which was Maurice Hurst, who had a good game last week with their defensive tackle. They did that. I don't feel like Hurst did anything. And let me see what he did in the box score. Yeah, Hurst had 2 tackles and he batted a pass. So that's a good day for Feeney and company. On the other hand, I also felt like they had to shut down Lynch. Obviously, that goes without saying. And they did that. Lynch, 9 carries, 31 yards. Only had 2 catches for 10 yards. And they had to shut down Jared Cook. And Cook had only 20 yards. So it's pretty impressive stuff to finally take away the best players on the other team. Hasn't happened yet, but baby steps. And hopefully we see that coming forward. They're going to have to do that again next week with the Browns. But we'll get to that in a second here too. There's really nothing that the Raiders were doing on basically both sides of the ball to ever feel like the game was going to be in a threat, even as the game was like in a little bit of a lull in the first half before the Chargers got in the end zone. I don't know. They just don't have very many good players. And I know Derek Carr's stat line looks fine, 24 for 33. It just seems like he gets pretty frantic back there when frenetic, whatever the word is, when people are basically going down his throat, man. When people are coming at him, he just turns into a completely different quarterback. And I thought Gus Bradley actually did a really good job of just changing it up and just giving him different looks and coming from different angles. I know Philon had a sack. I'm trying to think. I don't remember who else had a sack besides Ingram and Philon. That might have been it. Ingram had a sack. Oh, Rochelle had a sack too. That's right. So 3 sacks. That'll work. Can't be too mad about that. Gus Bradley changing up looks, bringing guys from different spots. It was interesting. So they actually played Michael Davis a lot more. I noticed that today. I don't know who they took off the field because Adai was still deep. Derwin was in the box, but they also had that must have been their dime package. So they had Adai deep, Derwin at safety, Adrian Phillips was a linebacker, and then Perriman, and then Michael Davis and Desmond King. Derwin looked mortal. This, I imagine, means this game. Yeah, so that's something that we were talking about a little bit. I feel like his expectations are so unrealistic that if he has a game that Derwin doesn't dominate, we're just gonna think that, oh man, what's wrong? But yeah, he looked like a regular guy today, and that's fine. He's still a rookie, man. He did have a tackle for a loss. He had a couple stops at the line of scrimmage, but yeah, he didn't really make any plays in the passing game. I thought for a second he might have an interception, but nope, nothing happened. Nice to see the Chargers putting away bad teams and not letting them hang around. Yeah, that's a good point. That's what good teams do. Good teams don't play around with bad teams. So, for example, right now the Rams are up 2 against the Seahawks. They are also missing their top 2 receivers, but when you are a good team, you basically just step on a bad team's throat. You don't leave them any hope. You don't give them any hope, and you put them away. And that's kind of what the Chargers did. Once that Austin Eckler touchdown happened, and then the very next play fumble, from there is all she wrote, man. I never felt like it was going to be close at all. So yeah, that was good. That was good to see for sure. Trying to think of how far, what the ceiling is of this team is tough just because we still have no idea exactly what the defense will look like when Bosa comes back, or if there's like somebody else that steps up. We don't know if maybe Legit gives him more, or when Bosa comes back, Phylon is able to produce a little bit like he did today. Obviously, he's not going to have a sack every game, but I feel like when Bosa comes back, they are going to be able to, just people will fall back into place. When's the Gates pay-per-view match? Yeah, I don't know what that was. So at the very, very end of the game, Gates is tangled up with some dude. I don't know if it was 55 or some defensive end. He's blocking. They're like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and there's a little scuffle, a little kerfuffle, and nothing really comes of it, man. They're just I never, ever get when football players swing on somebody while you have a helmet on. Like, what are you trying to accomplish, man? Come on. So, yeah, I would say Gates would be a slight favorite over Conor McGregor. So, yeah, back to the ceiling talk. So, Chargers are 3-2 right now. Big win. Had to have this win. Should beat the Browns. Should beat the Titans. Should be 5-2. I don't think anybody will argue that. The Titans are not good. I've watched them the last couple of weeks, and Mariota is blah. Baker's regressing back to the norm after that Thursday night. It'll be interesting to see what their game plan is for Baker, just as far as you got to keep him in the pocket, that's for sure. He made some nice plays to extend some plays today, and kept the Browns in it. But the Browns defense has like quietly been pretty good this year. I know they gave up a bunch of points to the Raiders last year, but I mean, they have some good players and they're playing a lot more sound. So the Chargers are going to they can't overlook the Browns. I'll say that. And I don't think that they will. If they lose next week, it'll be tough. How do you feel about Keenan's screen passes? I actually don't mind that at all, just because I am so pro getting your best players the ball at any time, like ever. That's why I hear a lot of people complain about, for example, Odell Beckham returning punts. I feel like football's so dangerous. You have a chance to get hurt anytime. So that's that's wishy-washy anyways. But if you want to give your best players and you feel like they have a chance to score, let them touch the ball as often as you can and let them score. So I don't mind screen passes at all. And as we saw today, I think those screen passes actually gave Keenan just a little bit of confidence, because I don't know, he's been just a little bit off, and maybe you guys might disagree, but he's been a little bit off the last, I would say the last couple of weeks or so, without having his stats in mind. Just something with him is off, it seems like. But he got the ball in his hands. It's like getting a basketball player an easy bucket. Sees that. Now the shots can go in. And that's what happened. He was able to get open over the middle a little bit. So, yeah, that was good. I am all for giving Keenan the ball as often as possible. Keenan versus Denzel Ward. Yeah, he looks really good, man. He's given up some big plays, but he's been like right there. And some of the receivers he's given them up to they're like the best of the best. So it'll be a good one. I imagine. I don't know that he will follow Keenan to the slot, and it seems like that's where most of his damage will likely come from. So it'll be interesting, man. I saw some people complaining about Mike Williams getting a reverse today, just because he's not a speedster. He wouldn't be a guy that you think of, which is why it makes perfect sense. They basically had all, like, the entire offense to one side. So why not just act like the defense is going that way, bring Mike Williams back? And it's not like he wasn't he was going to make something happen. I think he got like 8 yards, and I know Tyrell had the obvious block in the back, but I didn't mind it at all. Put the ball in Ingram's hands more near the goal line. What I wanted to happen so bad is Ingram to go over top like LT used to and just like dive. That would have made such good TV, because he would have scored and ran around the field and talked so much shit, or B, fumbled, and it would have been a disaster of a call. But once I saw that they put Ingram in as a fullback, you could pretty much tell that, yeah, Wiz just does not take these dudes serious at all, because I don't know when the last time you guys have even seen Melvin Ingram in the game on offense, but I don't remember that even being a thing, even as like a lead blocker. So a lot of times other teams will put like a defensive tackle, like a big nose tackle in there to lead block, but they don't even do that. So when Ingram came in, I don't know, it felt like very high school homecoming, let your senior get a touchdown. But yeah, it was interesting, man. I wonder what other wrinkles they have. I'm not sure that their wrinkles work ever. Like, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, where they did that little double reverse and Keenan was going to throw the ball. Did not work. I see Wiz heard your complaints about 30's touches and got him heavily involved in the final 4 minutes. Yeah, I actually don't mind that at all. I feel like they have let him close out some games, which is cool. I wouldn't mind him getting involved earlier in the games. That would be nice. So Ekeler finished with 1 catch and 6 carries, and those 6 carries obviously don't look great just because it came at the end of the game where the Raiders are expecting to stop the run. But we saw him break one of those, and I think he went for 12 yards. And did he fall on his own, like to protect, instead of running up the score? You see running backs do that. Or did he just trip? I couldn't tell. I don't really remember it. But it seemed like it seemed like it was one of those Brian Westbrook go down things. But I don't know. Next week, one of these weeks, I won't say next week, but I feel like eventually it's going to come back and bite them in the ass that they're not getting him involved more. I do like the idea, though, and we're seeing it more so the last couple weeks, of using Ekeler as a decoy. So they'll line him up in like trips, or they'll line him up right on the line of scrimmage, and they will motion him one way and pitch the ball the other way, or even motion him look away and throw it back to him. They can do so much with him. One of their best plays is honestly with both Ekeler and Gordon is just literally running all the receivers off, running all the receivers deep, and just dump it off to one of the running backs and just let them get 5, 6, 7, and obviously that both of those guys have enough, whether it's breaking tackle, ability to break a tackle, or wiggle to make a guy miss and turn it into a big play. Phylon is the new Bosa. Let's just cut Joey. No arguments here, man. Okay, let's think about it. How many sacks does Bosa have this year? How many sacks does Phylon have this year? I think that pretty much answers your question and tells you who is better. The answer is pretty simple. It's Phylon. And I am pretty interested to see how those guys are once Bosa gets back. He just gives this entire team a shot, man, like a shot of energy. And he is a very good player. Breaking news. Browns wise, I think I feel like there's not much to talk about just with the Raiders because they are not very good. I think there were some missed tackles by the offense. I don't think the line blocked particularly well. And I think that's a big reason why the Chargers started off so slow. It's just because they had to. It seems like they were so conservative, just trying to protect Scott and Tevy, that they weren't sure how aggressive they can be. And then once they started to score, they started to realize, oh wow, we can do this. We can go here. We can go deep. And it started showing the play calling a little bit, and that's when the game started to open up. So we'll see next week, man. Myles Garrett is worlds better than anything that the Raiders have. So I imagine there will be a lot of help towards his side, but they also have like Larry something, number 65, a defensive tackle who's also very, very good to me anyways, and he might give them problems. I didn't keep tabs and Lamp get any snaps. I did not see 77 out there. I was looking, and he did not make it out. There was a big deal just about how he's active and how he's going to make his debut, and this is going to be the time. And I was thinking, man, especially with the game in hand at that little 4-minute offense they had when they were just letting Eckler run the ball, like that would be a perfect situation to get him out there. But Sheffield's been really good, man. So if they only view him as a right guard, then there's not much you can do with that. So it just is what it is at this point, man. It's going to, hopefully they figure something out during the bye week and we see Lamp. Maybe that's the goal. Try to make it to the bye week and see what they can do from there. It's almost like the Raiders really need a solid pass rusher. Have no idea how you come to the conclusion that to make your team better, you will trade away probably the best pass rusher in the NFL. Probably. I mean, Von Miller, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they all play in the same division, but those three dudes, man. And we're not talking about like Mack being like a 10-year vet who's over the hill. This dude is probably not even in his prime. So yeah, Raiders are stupid. Raiders suck. Shocker. They're saying that today the Raiders were throwing like their drinks and stuff on the Chargers as they scored and celebrated. Not shocking. They are terrible people. Chucky being Chucky sure is. But yeah, man, I really don't feel like there's much really to talk about. We can talk about. I really do think that when they don't play the two best teams in the NFL, the Chargers can be very, very good. I think that they are going to make the playoffs. I think that they are going to – it seems like they have a shot to make a little bit of a run. I don't know how deep that run is. It'll depend on how everything else shakes out. But if you just go down like other playoff teams in the AFC, so the Ravens are probably one of the better teams in the AFC North, and they lost to the Browns. So they cannot score. They're not a good offense. Do not be fooled by anything you think, or do not be fooled by anything you see. AFC South, what we have, the Jags, who could not score against one of the worst defenses in the NFL today. The Titans lost to Josh Allen. If you just go down the list, man, there's just so many. And I imagine the Steelers will be fine, but their defense is not any good. The Patriots obviously are good. The Chiefs are good, but there's just so much room for the Chargers to improve. Yeah, Ravens and Titans lost today. The Broncos lost today too, and that game was not close, and they got stomped. They got smacked pretty good by the Jets. So, I mean, essentially I know it's week 5 and it seems silly to say, but the teams that needed to lose today, they lost. And it's going to go really well for the Chargers if they can find a way to pull out these next couple games. They will be sitting very nicely. And they pretty much have to in order to be taken serious. I feel like they kind of have to win these next 2 games. So we'll see, man. I'm not even looking forward to rewatching this game just because it was so boring. I feel like nothing really happened, but I don't know, man. We'll see. Who cares? That's all I got. I feel like we've been here plenty of more than enough times to talk about a blowout win. Chargers win, Raiders lose, Broncos lose, Chiefs lose. Feels like every AFC team that needed to lose lost. 5-2 on deck, hopefully. Go into the bye, get Bosa back, hopefully have Lamp in there, get Kaiser back, get a little healthy, get some roles for some of these guys on offense like Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. And, 5-2 going to the bye. Bosa comes back, and the Chargers go undefeated for the rest of the season. Not just in the playoffs, they win the Super Bowl. That's all I got. I'm going to get out of here, guys. Go team.